Today, I have not one, but actually two wonderful pieces of news to share with you. Yes, two. I am bubbling a little as I'm recording this. I think you can notice that. Because sometimes life gives you one of those moments where you pause, look back, look around and think, wow, this is why the path has been unfolding the way it has. Not because every step made sense at the time, not because every part was clear from the beginning, but because slowly, gently, and sometimes very unexpectedly, the colors begin to appear, merge together. And today's episode is really about that. It is about the first and the last letter in the confident framework. C for clarity and T for truth. And in many ways, it feels like a full circle moment, as if one round of the journey is coming together, and now it's time to begin a new one. Not from the same place as before, much more clear on who I am, more clarity, more truth, more color, and a deeper sense of direction. Because sometimes clarity does not arrive as a perfect detailed map. You suddenly realize that, well, this is me. This is where I'm meant to stand. This is the kind of contribution I want to make now.
1, 2, 3, 4. Confidence starts inside of you.
Welcome back to Confident Leadership in Color. I'm Hanna Saxmy, leadership coach and developer, and this podcast is for you who want to lead yourself and others with more courage, clarity, heart, and of course color. And today I'm adding a little extra confetti. Woo! And honestly, I'm still in that slightly surreal stage of, wait, is this really happening? Like a true pinch me moment. So here it goes. The first piece of news is this. I'm going to study theology and leadership. Yep, even saying that sentence feels like opening a door I have been walking towards for a long time. Through this journey, I also will be able to call myself a pastor. It really feels big. That has taken many, many years to arrive. And yet, when it finally comes, it lands with rather peace. Because this is not a sudden new direction. It's more like the details in the painting have started to appear. It made it clearer. For the last 3 years, I have been trying to find the shape of something, trying to name what I could sense, but not fully describe. There has been something there, a longing, a direction, a desire to support leaders in a deeper way, a desire to create spaces where people can grow, lead, serve, and become more fully themselves. But I could not quite put the right name on it. And then, thanks to some very dear friends around me who listened, reflected, and helped me to hear myself more clearly, the words began to form. So, drum roll please. The second piece of the news is this. I'm going to start working as a church developer. And honestly, well, it feels like the best of all worlds. I want to be in a space between volunteer leaders in a church community and employed leaders. Right there in the middle, that is where my heart really truly lights up. Because when volunteer leaders and the employed leaders begin to move in a shared direction, when they see one another, trust one another, and build together, well, something truly beautiful happens. There is movement, there is ownership, there is heart, there is growth. And yes, I would say it, there is not a little, it's a lot of magic there too. Not magic as everything becomes easy, but magic as in something more becomes possible when people walk together with clarity, faith, and shared purpose. And this has been a process for several years. I have spoken before about direction and vision, and how at the beginning, vision, well, it's rather blurry at the beginning. It's really that overview. It's definitely not a finished painting. Sometimes I would describe it as more as the first large brush strokes. You begin by sensing the frame, the size of the canvas, the direction of the light, and then as you continue to work on the painting, more of the image begins to emerge. The details do not always come first. They rarely do. Often they only appear when you dare to keep painting. And that is exactly how this has felt. Today, when I opened Facebook, I saw a memory from 12 years ago, and it stopped me for a moment. Back then, I was stepping into a leadership program. I had been selected because I had been identified as a young, emerging leader in the company where I worked at the time. I remember feeling excited, curious, yes, a little nervous too. There was a sense of this matters, this is going somewhere. And in many ways it was the right direction. But if I'm completely honest, I also remember feeling something else. I did not feel fully in the right place. Not wrong, not bad, just not quite right. Something was like rubbing. Something did not fully fit. But at that time, I could not put my fingers on what it was. I did not have the words for it. And maybe you know that feeling too. When something looks good on the paper, when it makes sense logically, when other people might even say, like, well, this is a great opportunity. And still, somewhere inside there is a small friction, a quiet question, a little inner whisper saying, is this really the environment where I can grow? Is this really the place where my whole palette is needed? Is it really where I'm meant to contribute? At the time, I could not answer those questions, but now, looking back, I understand more. For me, it is incredibly important to be in an environment where values are not only spoken about, but shown in actions. Where values are not just written on a website, in a strategy document, or on a beautiful poster, but where they are practiced, lived, tested, returned to, made visible in decisions, conversation, priorities, and relationships. And for me, it also matters deeply that there is a higher purpose beyond money. Now, there are many environments and organizations where that can be true. But for me, here and now, that's the place in the church. This is the environment where I feel that my experience, my faith, my coaching, my leadership development, my colors, my questions, and my heart can come together in a more integrated way. And what I could not fully define 12 years ago, I can now say with so much joy and relief, I am in the right place. A place where I can contribute, a place where I can grow, a place where I can help others to grow. And that makes me both deeply grateful and wonderfully excited. The fact that I'm now stepping into further leadership studies and also theological studies is part of that. I want to understand the perspective from a pastor's eyes even more. I want to deepen my understanding, broaden my language, strengthening my foundation, and continue to bring together leadership, faith, people, purpose, and development. It feels so obvious to say now, but when I look in the rear view mirror, I can also see that it has been many years in the making. Many steps, many questions, many open doors, and also a lot of closed ones. Many brush strokes that did not make sense on their own, but now begin to form part of a larger picture. So, in August, I'm taking new steps. Theology and Leadership Studies, a new role as church developer, continue my journey with this company, and continue the podcast, continuing to explore how all of these colors will live together on the same canvas to bring more life, more color into it. And I do not know exactly how the journey will unfold, but maybe that is part of the beauty, because one thing I have learned and perhaps become even more convinced of is this: my plans can be good, really good, but God's plans are so much better, so much more beautiful, so much more layered, so much more alive than I could design on my own. And what matters most for me now is to stay in motion, to keep walking, to keep listening, to keep taking steps so that God can continue to guide my direction. And I'm genuinely curious what this will become, curious about the people, the conversations, and the growth that will be part of this next chapter. And maybe that is where I want to invite you today. Not necessarily into my exact story, but into your own. Because perhaps there is something in your life that has been rubbing a little. Something that is not necessarily wrong, but maybe not fully right either. Perhaps there is a place where you have been trying to convince yourself that everything is fine, while something inside keeps whispering, there is more clarity to find here. And I want to encourage you to become curious about that friction, not afraid of it, not annoyed by it, not too quick to silence it, but curious. What is it trying to tell you? Maybe it is pointing towards who you are becoming. Maybe it's showing you something about the person you want to be. Maybe it is inviting you to add more knowledge, practice a new skill, or strengthen a part of yourself that is ready to grow. Or maybe it is about your environment. Are there people you want to create more space for? Are there places where you feel there is more room for growth? Are there communities, conversations, or contexts where your colors can be fully expressed? You do not have to know everything today. Clarity can come one brushstroke at a time. And truth can take years to name. That does not mean that you are late. It means that you are on a journey. One step at a time is still movement. And today I feel incredibly relieved and grateful to say that my steps has landed here, in a place with a slightly adjusted and much clearer direction. So I am going to enjoy this moment. Yes, I'm going to let it fill me with energy, because I know there will be parts of the road ahead that will be more challenging. Again, that is how journeys works. But today there is joy, there is color, there is gratitude, there is clarity. So maybe your reflection for today is this: where in your life is something rubbing a little, and what might it be trying to show you? Not as a problem to solve immediately, but as a clue, a color, a small brushstroke towards the next part of your picture. Be curious, keep walking, let clarity unfold, and dare to stand a little more fully in your truth. Be confident, be you.